stars, Mr. Rob, saying that it's time to go fly somewhere. Here's Jarvis, the next report. Of the FG-1D Corsair. He'll be back for his full aerobatic demonstration in just a few minutes. Just listen to this thing as it comes by. Come on, the big air show of the stars right here in Rhode. Look, we have a grand division today. Look at this. Just like they did back in the 1920s, it is John Glatt. Complete without this next sound. Imagine yourself in 1943 on some tiny island in the Pacific. The Japanese Zeros are inbound. They're all over you, in fact. Your only saving grace is what is entering now from the right. That is Lieutenant John Glenn and his P-51D Corsair, sweeping in to rescue his fellow Marines on the ground. Feel it in your chest and feel it in your heart as Mark Murphy and the John Glenn Corsair move in to clean house. John Glenn, man who served his country valiantly, not only in World War II, but went on to become the first man to orbit this planet. After doing that, he said he didn't know how anybody could believe in God after seeing this earth from so high and so far away. He knew that there was something incredible about the life that we all live. John Glenn. He became the man that we could all look up to. He served his country in the Marine Corps, became a colonel. Later became an astronaut at NASA. As we said, the first man to orbit the Earth. But he cut his teeth in this airplane, the mighty Corsair. This particular one, built in 1943 by the Goodyear Corporation. As Mark pulls it up and performs this ever so graceful victory barrel roll at Airshow Center, just think about that greatest generation for a moment that flew this airplane before Mark. They knew what they were up against, fighting the enemies in not only Europe but also in the Pacific. And they kept saying, "Put me in, Coach." They had less than the chance of winning a coin toss to complete their missions, but they all did it. Many of them suffering from what we now know as post-traumatic stress disorder. They found their comfort maybe in a bottle, somewhere in a darkened alley. Some became hobos. They traveled the earth on treats, never to find meaningful work. Some for 30 years, like Jerry Ellen said after flying the Mustang. But men like John Glenn, they persevered. They became astronauts. He became a senator. And today, this Corsair flies as a tribute to not only John Glenn, but all of the greatest generation. Mark Murphy, the man at the helm today, is a guy that just loves to fly. He soloed his family's Corsair at the tender age of 16, right off the family's grass strip. Mark Murphy today has over 28 years of flight experience, and he has over 5,500 hours of flight time in numerous aircraft, including nearly 900 hours in the family's North American P-51 Mustang. But today, Mark's proud to fly the Corsair at its debut air show. In fact, this is the first time this particular Corsair, in this particular paint scheme, honoring the late John Glenn, has been flown at an air show anywhere. And you're seeing it firsthand. Right here in Rhode Island. Watch Mark as he hangs upside down in the straps. Give him the wave, ladies and gentlemen, in the inverted pass. great things about Mark Murphy and the entire family there at the Murphy Ranch. They love to pass aviation on to the next generation. You've heard that theme a lot today. Mark has personally flown over 300 kids, giving them their first airplane ride. Mark's own daughter, she soloed the family Piper Cub at 16. The exact same aircraft that Mark soloed on his 16th birthday. Watch him down on the deck here now. Just listen to this gorgeous Corsair as Mark performs a nice axial victory roll right at show center. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these airplanes that we're watching today, like the Corsair, I want you to listen to what I'm about to say because it's sacrilege to some. These airplanes, they're just props. That's all they are, right? They're props for a stage play. The story is what's important. Mark Murphy and the sound of that Pratt & Whitney engine tell the story of the greatest generation. And it ought to inspire each and every one of you to do something grand in your life. It tells the story of a nation that pulled itself up by the bootstraps after it was punched in the gut at Pearl Harbor on December 7th of 1941. It's Sunday and we're going to go to church right here and right now. The story of John Glenn and the F-4U Corsair, it's one that we can all learn from. Take home with you today this lesson. If we don't all stand and fight for this country, we could stand to lose it. The words of Ronald Reagan were simple. He said that freedom is only the length of one generation, and once that torture's passed, it's up to us to maintain it. When you go to an art museum and you see a beautiful painting hanging on the wall, it's almost the same as when you go to a museum and you see a gorgeous buffalo that had once roamed the plains, now stuffed and preserved in that museum. But ladies and gentlemen, when you go to a zoo and you hear a lion roar, it strikes you right in the gut. You feel it in your heart. And when you come to an air show like this and you see an F-4U Corsair built back in 1943, you can't tell me that your spine doesn't tingle when you hear this sound come screaming by. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the sound of freedom. The quiet, hushed, low rumbling of a country that knew what it had to do, and when it had to do it, it stood up and it performed that act all the way to victory. I want to see a show of hands here. How many of you have a veteran in your family from World War II? Just hold it up high and holler for him, will you? Now, Rhode Island, stand up and cheer if you have a veteran in your family from the Vietnam era. Stand up and let this country and all of these people right here in Rhode Island know how proud you are of those family members, your grandfather, your father. Now let's hear it for all of those active duty members currently serving at home and abroad right now. In fact, I want to let you in on a secret. As the Corsair rounds the corner, my own wife set flight last night to a war zone herself in the Middle East. So many of our military families from right here in Rhode Island, the 143rd Airlift Wing, their families are over there right now. And you know what? Their mothers, and in some cases their fathers, they're right here in this country. We're worried about our loved ones that are overseas, fighting that good fight that John Glenn and his compatriots stood up and said, you know what? We have to do it too. We have to get in over there. We know the odds are tough. We're all worried today about the war on terror, but this airplane, the Corsair, let it stand as a reminder that victory can be achieved, and it can be within reach. That's the lesson that we can all take home today. And kids, if you don't know the story of your own relatives who have served this country, go home and learn them. Let this piece of American history ring true in your hearts today and every day. We're going to watch Mark Murphy come back by now and give us another photo pass here in the Corsair. Take this one home with you, will you? Grab your phones right now and get them out, because this next pass, Mark's going to bring it in here from the left and give little Timmy. He wrote into Airshow by request. Tim wanted a picture of it. We're going to make it happen for you, this time with the smoke on in his tribute pass. enjoyed our little time back in yesteryear with the Geico Sky Typer showing you the training platform. Now, Mark Murphy is the frontline fighter for the Pacific. Watch him as he circles back in here. He's going to drop the landing gear. He'll lower the flaps here. And he's going to set that beautiful Corsair right back down on the runway. Here's the wing wave. Giving Sean D. Tucker a good look at it. And now Mark Murphy will soon return to Earth. And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that Corsair performance. You have seen it here first in the great state of Rhode Island. How wonderful to enjoy that. Mark is going to hopefully taxi right back down in front of us here in a few minutes. As Sean D. Tucker leaves the runway, he's going to climb to his perch. Where is Brandon Hess? Brandon Hess, are you in here? You're a filmmaker. I mean, man, you're a filmmaker. You love to tell these stories. You and I have both interviewed the late, great Bob Hoover, the greatest aviator to ever walk the face of the earth.
What a true honor.
I'm telling you, man, when he comes in there and he sees you in the room, he says, Brandon, come on down here and sit down and let me tell you some stories. Isn't it like, it's like reaching back, when that man would call you on the phone, it's like reaching back through time, right?
Yeah. You know, my wife and I made a movie about the Wright brothers called First in Flight, and I was blown away to know that Bob Hoover met Orville Wright.
He knew him.
He told me the story. He said, Brandon, he walked up to me and he says, fly safe. He said, here's the man who invented flight, who told me to fly safe.
Isn't that incredible?
Think about that heritage.
Well, we're watching John Glenn's tribute Corsair come in and land here. It just gets me fired up. You know, I want to live my life passionately when I think about those guys.
Yeah.
And that's what your father-in-law is going to tell us all about.
It's a perfect segue to who's up next.
Well, hey, put a note down, Dan McClare, that I had a perfect segue today, will you? Brandon Hess is here to tell us all about his father-in-law, the man in that little red Oracle Challenger Pitts that took off early. Watch Mark Murphy as he settles down. And Brandon's going to tell us all about this guy. This is what we have built the legacy of flight upon. We don't glorify war with these old warbirds. We simply want to remember and tell the stories of the greatest generation. Sean D. Tucker, he and Bob Hoover, the best of friends. In fact, that was his mentor in life. Bob Hoover, a veteran of World War II, a fighter pilot. Bob was at one point a POW of the Germans back then, of the Nazis. He escaped from prison, stole a Focke-Wulf 190, and flew away to safety. I mean, this guy, just like John Glenn, a true American hero. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here to tell us about a real American hero, a living legend, Sean D. Tucker, is none other